Shashi Tharoor, senior Congress leader, now joins me, Member of Parliament from Thiruvananthapuram. Dr. Tharoor, is the Congress agitation against Rahul Gandhi's disqualification really gaining traction as you try and spread it nationwide, or is it simply failing to take off? Even in Wayanad, with due regard, sir, the fact is that we haven't seen that kind of public support, at least public protests, we haven't seen on Rahul Gandhi's disqualification. What does that suggest? Why is there an absence of any large-scale protest?
It suggests to me that perhaps, if you look at different places at different times, you get different impressions. I've been in Thiruvananthapuram, yesterday in Guruvayur, and I can tell you that the turnout has been exceptional in both places. Unfortunately, so exceptional that in Trivandrum we had some terrible police brutality as unarmed youth Congress activists out in the street shouting were assaulted brutally by the Kerala police with lathis and worse. They were beaten on heads and bodies, and even innocent passers-by got bruised from these attacks. So clearly, if nothing was happening, these things wouldn't be happening. I visited some of the victims in hospital. It's pretty grim stuff going on. But the truth is that there is a fair amount of traction that I can see, but I agree that it may not be evenly spread everywhere. Wayanad people and people generally across our country have fundamental issues of life, of employment, of income, of inflation to worry about. And therefore, it's not that they don't care. It's just that there are things they're trying to do to keep their own body and soul together. That's essentially the only difference that I see. I don't think it's a lack of traction. I think it's that, naturally people have other things. It's the politically committed who are out there every single day. And that the Congress has been able to sustain that so far suggests that the Congress people, at least workers and supporters, are strongly mobilized. But
Dr. Tharoor, there has been an attempt by the Congress to evoke sympathy for Rahul Gandhi. I saw a social media campaign, Mere Ghar Aao Rahul Gandhi, because he's going to lose his government bungalow. There doesn't seem to be, though, on the ground, beyond the Congress cadres, the kind of widespread sympathy perhaps that maybe the Congress was hoping for. Rahul Gandhi doesn't seem to be an Indira Gandhi of the 70s who could go to a Chikmagalur, win her by-election after she lost her membership in 77. Do you agree that Rahul Gandhi is yet to evoke that wider sympathy outside your hardcore Congress cadres?
Rajdeep, I can only talk about what I see, and I've been in Kerala the whole of this week, and I can tell you that here there is tremendous public sympathy. So much so that I'm picking this up even from people who are not Congress sympathizers. There is a genuine perception that democracy is under threat here. Because even people who don't really like Rahul Gandhi or want to vote for the Congress, when you ask them, is it good for democracy that the principal leader of the major opposition party is going to go to jail for 2 years and will not be able to raise his voice in parliament for 8? Is that good for democracy? And even people who say they voted for the BJP last time are saying, that's really not good. That's not what our democracy should be all about. That's what I'm hearing more and more. Public sympathy is there. Maybe not everybody who sympathizes publicly will come out on the street and brave the police lathis. But the perception that this is about something even larger than an individual or a particular party, but is about saving our democracy, that perception is widespread in Kerala. Now, that's for Kerala that I can speak about because that's where I am. If you're telling me that it's not where you are, then clearly there are different perceptions. But I have no doubt that this has gained a lot of traction, this message.
Okay, Kerala is not India, Dr. Tharoor, but let's look at what has been the central issue raised by Rahul Gandhi, the Adani issue. For the last 8 years, Dr. Tharoor, Rahul Gandhi has constantly called the Modi government an Adani Ambani ki sarkar, and yet you lost 2 elections badly in 2014 and 19. So what can be different in 2024 when once again Rahul Gandhi takes the Adani issue on the center stage? Is it that you are still not able to connect this Adani question or the claim that it's a scam to a politically, electorally viable weapon?
Look, let me speak personally. I'm not an official spokesman of the party, nor am I a strategist for the party who decides these things. But what I believe is in raising questions in the interest of accountability, but moving on to issues that touch the daily lives of my voters. And if I speak to them of issues like unemployment, inflation, lack of credible measures of governance, whether in Karnataka, in Kerala, of course, the governance is by the communists, but elsewhere, very, very frankly, the echoes I get back are very encouraging for the Congress and for other opposition parties. I once in Mumbai was in a room with 500 people, and I asked the question, how many of you, and these are middle class people, I agree they're not the poorest of the poor, but nor are they some affluent elite five-star hotel crowd. I said, how many of you have had your lives improved because of decisions or actions taken by this BJP government since 2014? And in that 500 strong crowd, one person raised her hand. One person. Now, that's the kind of impact that this government has to realize its policies have failed to have. Maybe in some villages where there were no toilets before, the fact that toilets have come will win them votes. But there's certainly in urban India, what I'm seeing, and amongst the middle class, is a terrible sense of alienation, now compounded with this latest development by a sense that democracy that they've taken for granted is under threat. You know, Rajdeep, I'll tell you, I spoke to a BJP supporter just a couple of days ago who said to me, you know, Mr. Modi is prime minister because of democracy. He was an OBC person. He said, you know, we OBCs and others have rights because of democracy. We can't accept that democracy should in any way be diluted because democracy is what has given us what we value. Now, maybe he's an exceptionally thoughtful BJP voter, but that's the kind of message I'm picking up. And I think those are vulnerabilities we in the Congress can exploit.
But
the Rahul Gandhi issue is not just about one remark, one judgment, one sentence.
But are you in a way accepting, Dr. Tharoor, that the Congress cannot focus its narrative or debate only on the Adani issue? That you're going to have to localize your campaign. In states like Karnataka, if the Congress wants to get the traction, you can only get it if you localize a campaign, not by focusing on Gautam Adani. You'll have to connect to people's issues on the ground, which hasn't happened.
See, Rajdeep, as I preface this by saying I'm not the party strategist, but common sense tells me that we can't contest elections on any one issue. We have to have multiple issues. I will certainly continue to raise the questions that Rahul Gandhi has been raising. I will also raise Rahul Gandhi's own situation and the undemocratic behavior of the government. But I will also raise unemployment, inflation, the extraordinarily poor governance, say, in Karnataka, where I'm hoping to appear next week. There's going to be questions and issues we will all have to raise across the board. In state assembly elections, there'll be a greater emphasis on local issues. When we come to 24, there'll have to be national issues. But there's got to be a palette of issues. No party, unless there is a major mahal, wins an election on one issue alone. This is not so far a one-issue election. It's a multiple issue election. It's an are you better off than you used to be election, in my view. And frankly, after 10 years of BJP rule, if you're not better off, why are you voting for them again? There's absolutely no reason to.
You know, the reason is the Prime Minister keeps saying that the Congress is a party of entitled Dennis, out at the moment to protect one family, versus his government, which he says is rooted to which is dedicated to rooting corruption and the welfare of the people. That has been the focus of the BJP. Do you believe that narrative will play out again in 2024, Kamdar versus Namdar? Is it all building again, once again, towards that?
I mean, this business about entitled Dennis is a bit amusing, coming from the beneficiary and architect of the biggest personality cult we have seen in this country since 1971. Have you ever seen, I mean, the way in which nowadays even BJP ministers can't answer questions in parliament without some ritual genuflection to their real leader? You could almost be in North Korea, Rajdeep. I mean, it's just astonishing, the personality cult that has been built around our prime minister. And for that prime minister to talk about somebody else being a Shahzada or being a Zionist is frankly laughable, because nobody in any other party has the kind of personality cult built behind them that we've seen around Mr. Narendra Modi. I mean, I can respect individuals for what they accomplish, but I respect them also when they're accountable to the general public, not when they build themselves out and up into being larger than life figures who somehow have to be deified by their own party members. And listen, I talk to BJP people all the time, in parliament and outside it. It's not that I'm giving you a line that's merely the Congress party echo chamber, as some people might suggest. I always believe in politics, you appeal to people, not just from your own support group, as it were, but from across the spectrum. And I speak to people of various political persuasions, including the uncommitted, the neutral. And I think these perceptions, of which the Prime Minister and his party are blissfully unaware, also exist. And I think they should realize that, you know, there are a lot of Indians who, if they're not very keen on dynasty, are not very keen on a sort of Maoist or North Korean style personality cult either.
Now, that's the second time you've used a North Korean analogy, almost Shahzada versus Raja. But the Prime Minister said yesterday, Dr. Tharoor, that this is a coalition of the corrupt that is emerging around Rahul Gandhi and the opposition. The corrupt are trying in a way to protect. The corrupt is what was suggested by Prime Minister Modi and are using Rahul Gandhi's disqualification to gang up against the BJP. And the people, he said, of the country will not accept such a corrupt grouping coming up. How do you respond to that?
Unfortunately, this is one charge, I'm afraid, that the Prime Minister has used too often. Corruption seems to be a convenient label to apply only to the opposition. All the inquiries, ED and CBI and enforcement, income tax, revenue intelligence, all of that is always targeting the opposition. 95% of ED investigations in the last few years have been against opposition MPs or business people supporting the opposition. Whereas every person against whom an inquiry is in process suddenly gets washed clean when he joins the BJP. It's become a cynical exercise. I'm afraid corruption is no longer a credible thing for the BJP to accuse anybody of, because they whitewash the corrupt routinely. They take on corrupt people shamelessly. In fact, they corrupt some people in order to take them on by their so-called Operation Lotus. In many states, they have bought MLAs who won on other parties' tickets and brought them over. Honestly, if there's any case of corrupt shielding the corrupt, it has to be the BJP and not the opposition. The opposition doesn't have the resources to do the kind of corruption that the government has been doing. It really is, I'm sorry to say, a futile charge. I don't think the public buys it anymore. They've seen that, unfortunately, on these matters, everyone appears to be tarnished. And I would say that, we have also raised some very serious picture issues on what I would politely dub financial irregularity rather than corruption. And the Prime Minister has refrained from answering. So, I think flinging these pointless charges about is not going to get anyone anywhere. I think it's important now to focus very, very clearly on issues. Karnataka, the people have had 5 years of bad governance, and it's time for the reckoning, which is why they're running a desperately Hindutva campaign, resurrecting everything from hijab to love jihad to Tipu Sultan, and even apparently ascribing to two fictional characters the credit for killing Tipu Sultan in order to get some community votes in that process. I mean, this is the kind of politics the BJP is resorting to. I think the people of Karnataka will not be fooled again.
Let's leave it there, Dr. Tharoor. You've given us where the Congress stands on Rahul Gandhi's disqualification campaign. Appreciate your joining us.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.